afternoon. Are we on 4 o'clock straight up, a Thursday edition of On Cue? As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We are coming at you not only on the YouTube channel, but of course, SR 1029 FM, the game. Right now, if you download the Odyssey app and search Coastal Sports Digital Network, you'll find us Monday to Friday, 4 to 6 Eastern Time. As always, get social with me. Very easy to do at Rich Q on Q on X, IG, TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. On this, a very busy Thursday, the 11th of December, 2025. Hope everyone had a good Sports Wednesday and you are enjoying your Thursday. Very busy show. We are always powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off the first purchase, BYP20. That's on me with the weather getting very chilly out. And I'll tell you what, you talk about the weather getting chilly and cold out, and the hot seat is certainly cooking for a lot of these players in the NFL, for some of these head coaches, for some of these quarterbacks. We'll get into it. But oh my goodness, how about this Michigan story, which if you missed yesterday's show, Costco was on from On3 Sports, and the news came down that Sherrone Moore was fired by Michigan for cause. And now you're talking not even 24 hours later. And listen, you can be the ardent of Michigan fan, but there's no way you can turn a blind eye to these transgressions and just the absolute nonsense. And there's going to be 1,000 different schools of thought to come out of this. But the bottom line is, well, there's multiple bottom lines in this one. A lot of these details are extremely disturbing. The fact that you have dispatched audio from a domestic violence call, which was placed from a Michigan football employee's Ann Arbor address. The fact that Michigan, you almost get the sense that they, and again, speculation, maybe knew some of these transgressions or something was going on. I mean, first of all, let's, again, call it for what it is. You're not going to double somebody's salary at a major university and no one bats an eye. That's number one. The second involvement is that you're dealing with a staffer. You are a head coach. You're a mature man who's married with kids, and you just have to be foolish. You have to be foolish. I mean, the bottom line is, you think you're not going to get your hand caught in the cookie jar? I mean, you've got an opportunity now. You're coaching the Michigan Wolverines, and I remember SI did a piece when they hired him. And the first thing they were writing about was, this is the guy. This is the guy. You got the right guy. Leader of men. He's a pro's pro. He's going to do everything the right way. He's a gentleman, this, that, the other thing. Well, now, where are we at? Where are we at? I don't even want to say unfortunate, because ultimately you got to be held accountable for your actions. You just do. And then you've got more coming out that, he went over there. He threatened to kill himself, kill her. There was reports that he's been stalking this young lady that had an affair with for months. And then everything just came to a head. It just came to a head. And listen, there's Moore's actions are a disgrace. Okay? A disgrace. But then the AD, Warde Manuel, has to also be under fire here. I mean, that's got to be the final straw. You've got a university that's just plagued with scandals left and right, it seems, over the last several years. And, everyone wants to sit there and say there's reports coming out now that Michigan knew of. He was unstable. And now everyone wants to bring in mental illness into the equation. And no one's making light of it. No one is, but you got caught. I mean, I'm reading some of these reports and some of these details, and come on, man. You got to know better. You have to be smarter. You're talking about an inappropriate relationship pretty much with a kid, a staffer, right? And it's just unbelievable. It is. And the university did the proper investigation. You got credible evidence, but now you have to wonder if there was, if they knew of what was going on. That's all. That's all. Because there was, I think it was John O'Bacon. I think he reported and I'll pull it up on X. I think he was John U. Bacon. I think he reported that um, Moore's assistant disclosed affair with him after taking receipts to the University of Michigan. Moore was fired. He then allegedly went to the woman's house, grabbed a knife, and threatened to kill her and himself, and obviously was arrested. And it's just a bad story all around. I mean, this man obviously became unhinged, but a lot of it. Listen, these are your transgressions. I'm sorry, you can't get a fair pass here. Like, don't throw mental illness at me right now when you're basically having an affair with a staffer and you're married with 3 kids. Sorry, it's just again, you guys can suggest whatever you want, but I'm not going down that hole. And I can tell you something else. Jamel Hill. I mean, what the hell is she talking about? She got to bring race in the equation. Who cares if he's black, white, green, yellow, brown? It doesn't matter. You don't think white coaches do this crap and they get fired too? It's unacceptable. Like it's just stop making it a race issue. Seriously. It's just utterly ridiculous. But this is major drama and this is a major scandal and it rocks what's going on in college football to an esteemed university. So again, everyone can throw out all their little their little opinions, their little takes, their little hot takes, their little cold take, whatever it is, man. Ultimately, you've got someone that just made a stupid, it's not even a mistake. He knew what he was doing. That's it. He knew what he was doing. You got a wife, you got a couple kids, you're married, you got a dream job, you're talking about your faith in Jesus and the Lord and all this stuff. And then you turn around and you show that you have zero discipline, okay, whatsoever. None. And you can't hold yourself accountable. That's the other thing. And then you become unhinged and now you're supposed to be a martyr. No, get the hell out of here. Not happening, man. Sorry, not happening. You're not getting it from me because you got caught with your hand in cookie jar. And like I said, all I know is that you've had some fans that were saying he should have been fired prior to for what's going on the football field. And then you have to have some of the fan base saying, well, you can't take in consideration his private life and what's going on to make that decision. Well, now you can because there's a code of conduct. There's a code of conduct. Period. And you gotta be smarter. You got an opportunity. You're in a major university. You're a young guy. And again, man, without sounding just harsh, you can't teach stupid. This is Michigan. It's like a top 5 head coaching job. And you turn around, you're a weak man. You got a weak constitution. Seriously, that's all this is. Like, pay attention, read the room. Like, read the room. Have a better behavior. And then you're going to play that card. And obviously, he became unhinged. And the details are really, it's disturbing. The details are disturbing because you never want to see, even because of that behavior, you're holding a knife to your throat and you're threatening to kill yourself and this girl. And then there were reports about, what he had DoorDash delivered to her house and all this other stuff to prevent a pregnancy. And it's not good. It's not. And obviously the president, turns around and the AD's got to turn around and you got to fire this guy. And apparently he was under a mental health watch following his arrest. So you can't sit there and say, well, if people knew he was mentally unstable, you have to give him a free. No, you're not giving him a free pass. Sorry. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because if he's never caught, we're never even having this conversation. If it never blows up in his face, we're not having this conversation. And that's the bottom line. That's really the bottom line. So Michigan now is trying to fill the void left with this debacle that's going on. So we'll dive into that a little more. A lot of NFL to get into on this Thursday edition of On Cue as we jumpstart what's going on in another weekend in the NFL. Week 15, the Falcons and Tampa. That's a friggin' snooze fest of a Thursday night game. And then more fallout with Jalen Hurts, which it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. And if you think that was crazy, what's going on, not only in college, Jalen Hurts, with the pressure on him and some of these clowns in Philly, the talking heads talking about benching this guy, which is utterly ridiculous. Then you get the comments from Joe Burrow, who basically insinuated in if you really put it in the context, he's not enjoying the game. He's getting tired. The body and the mind are a little banged up, and maybe he pulls an Andrew Luck and he decides to retire, or he forces his way out of Cincinnati. So you have a lot cooking in the world of sports. Plus, very hot stove in MLB. We will get into that. We'll mix in a little NBA as well. We always want to hear from you guys. You can hashtag on cue. You can get in on the conversation on the YouTube channel as well. And as I mentioned, download the Odyssey app. We are on Coastal Sports Digital Network, also SR 1029 FM, the game. So if you go to the website right now and you can click on the Odyssey app, search Coastal Sports Digital Network. And we're very happy and excited to be back on there Monday to Friday from 4 to 6 Eastern time, as well as the YouTube channel at Rich Q on Q. So got some comments coming in. We'll rip them off. We'll read them off as well on this just absolutely crazy. It's a huge story. I mean, there's no way you can sugarcoat this story. And it's just, there's all these names that are going to be coming out, and the girl. I think there's a report saying it's Paige Shiver. Then there was a report that she's the daughter of a scout in the NFL. I don't know what to believe. All I know is right now this guy's in the clink, this guy's in jail, and that's the way it should be. Tori chimes in. Q, way to start off the show with a bang. Loving it. The coaching carousel getting a lot of attention, but don't let that distract you from realizing that Moore is actually a murderer who has destroyed the lives of his wife and young daughters. A baby paid the price, ultimate price cost for his evil. Listen, no one's saying he did that. That's just taking it, a step in a different direction there, Tori. I mean, if you want to sit there and say he's a bad dude, he's not a good husband, you can certainly say that, because he cheated on his wife. By all accounts, beautiful wife, beautiful kids. I'm not using, this is D chiming in Q. I'm not going to use mental illness as an excuse, but if the guy's really as hinged as you're reporting and the reports are saying in the news and on these sports stations, then maybe he does get a little bit of a pass. I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't. Even if he's acting strange, just, does anyone vet anymore? Do we vet? Do we do character checks? Do we? Because if this was like the tipping point, right, and it kind of calmed down towards the end of the regular season, and then all of a sudden it started to boil up again the past week, and then, it results in what's been described as a rare move by Michigan because of this behavior, then there's got to be more details. Like, you have to go through the litany of details and what's transpired. So again, I don't know if the AD knew about this. I don't know what Michigan knew or what they didn't know. I don't know if they covered up. I don't know if they were turning a blind eye. But I will say this: any job, if you're making X amount of dollars and you're close to your boss and all of a sudden your salary gets doubled, like, to me, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. To me, that raises a red flag. Like, my eyebrows raise up a little bit. I'm like, wait a second. Something doesn't seem right here. Something doesn't seem right. But nobody knows. Nobody knows. Like, more details are going to come out, but it's shocking. It really is. Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q, are you going to talk about Burrow's comments? I think you just mentioned it a little bit, but please get into it a little more when you talk more NFL. We will. We absolutely will. We absolutely will. We will definitely do that. Pittsfield police, they came out. The department read, the incident does not appear to be random in nature, and there appears to be no ongoing threat in the community, which is always good news. But the bottom line is, right now, like I said, he's in jail, was engaged in 2014, and married in 2015. So a lot to kind of digest with what's going on right now. All right. 16 past 4 o'clock hour, Thursday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Keep it locked into the Odyssey app, Coastal Sports Digital Network. As always, check me out on the YouTube channel too, and on SR 1029 FM The Game. A lot of comments coming in, a lot of Michigan fans coming in, some college football is chiming in as well. We'll get into that. We've got a lot of NFL to really get into because, as I mentioned, it's a huge weekend in the NFL. Aside from everything else, it is a very big weekend in the NFL. And I think Lloyd mentioned it kind of like the show me, right? The test of some of these teams. I don't want to misquote my guy, Lloyd, who, oh, by the way, new edition of BYP's dropped, and that's up on the YouTube channel, as well as audio on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. So check that out. But you got some big games this weekend. Chargers and the Chiefs, Ravens and Cincinnati, Bills and the Pats, Raiders and Eagles because of all the pressure on Jalen Hurts, the Packers and Denver, the Lions and the Rams, the Colts and Seattle. Who knows if Phillip Rivers is going to be under center? And believe it or not, that Dolphins and Steelers game is very interesting regarding the scenarios that could unfold if the playoffs were to start today. So we want to run through the gamut. We got a lot of comments, as I mentioned. I want to rip through them as well. And I'll say this. I will say this. This weekend, I think this is separating the pretenders to the contenders in the NFL. The pretenders from the contenders in the NFL. And I'm going to rip through your college football Michigan comments. I'm going to rip through your NFL comments. I see them coming in big time. A couple guys that bled over from yesterday. We didn't get to a little MLB. We'll do that in a 5 o'clock hour. But, your thoughts on what's going on with Michigan. And again, you don't want to speculate if it was a cover up or not. It's a bad look all around. It really is. And at the end of the day, you get caught with your hand in a cookie jar. You got to be held accountable. But that is a head coaching vacancy that when you take it back to the field and from a sports standpoint, that's a very appealing job, but you got to bring in someone who's going to clean it up. And I've got some thoughts on that as well. What do we got here? D chimes back in. Q, do you think that Michigan was opportunistic in the timing of their firing of Moore? Hey, listen, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that he was a patsy, right? I'm not gonna say that. Listen, I believe where there's smoke, there's fire. And when you work for a major institution, a major company, a major corporation, a major university, and you are getting paid a lot of money, everyone knows everyone's business. Like, you're watched, you're being monitored. And I hate to keep harking back to Penn State and Paterno and Sandusky. And I remember I would get into heated debates on air with Penn State alumni, Penn State boosters, a couple of former Penn State football players that reside in the area. And I refused to relent. Joe Paterno knew exactly what the hell was going on at Happy Valley. He knew exactly what was going on in Penn State. So he was also, the university turned a blind eye to what was going on with Sandusky. So a lot of people had to be held accountable. Point is, yes, I believe that Michigan, to some extent, kind of knew, okay, something's a little fishy. Something doesn't make sense. Like I said, you're working at a job and you're making X amount of dollars and you're tight with the boss, and then it's time for a raise. And oh, by the way, your salary is doubled. Now, it's just a question is if they turn around because of all this nonsense and they fire the AD. Because you can't have this athletic director at the helm. And it's just not, again, you go back to the Harbaugh scandal. I mean, you're talking about scandal after scandal over the last several years. And if we're being fair, this is not a little bump. This is not I'm making $15 an hour to 17. This is a person that was making just under 60 to 90. without any apparent change in job title. And that's public. Those are public available figures on a college staffer and salary. I mean, just, again, who are you trying to kid? Like, who are you really trying to kid here? And that's one of the reasons, again, when everything came to a head, that the police were called to the to this place, this residence, this apartment. The fact that he threatened to, he held a knife to his throat. He was going to kill himself, kill her. You want to say unhinged, not hinged? At this point, I don't care. I'm past it. And it's funny because the sad thing is you're fired with cause, right? And now everyone's going to sit there and say, well, he's got a lawsuit against Michigan. No, 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 no. Michigan has no obligation to pay out the remaining monies that he's owed. The whole story stinks. It really does. It's disheartening. It's upsetting. And it's just, it's bad all around. But the athletic director also has to be held accountable. You cannot allow a knucklehead like this to keep running the show. You can't. And if you're Michigan, you need someone that's going to come in and forget about hiring someone with no experience. You need someone that's going to be a leader of men that has a good background, resume, reputation, character, that gets it, that understands the position and what's been granted to them. And you got to turn around and now you got to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to change the culture here, right? I'm going to change the culture. And, Moore had an opportunity to really do something special with Michigan. And he just, as I mentioned, it's just not bad. It's just, there's a lot going on, man. There's a lot. And there should be a lot of people that are held accountable, to be honest with you. All right, 24 past 4 o'clock hour. I want to get to your comments coming in. You guys chiming in on the YouTube channel. I'm going to get to you as well. Got to remind everyone, we are inching closer to holidays. Take advantage of the promo code Back Your Play 20 BYP20. That'll save you 20% off all your purchases to start. First purchase on fresh roasted coffee. BYP20. Save on us. And 2 locations if you're looking to get some sports gear and merchandise for your kids if they're playing youth sports and or high school sports, college sports, played against sports. 2 locations, one in Mount Laurel, second in Deptford, 1450 Clements Ridge Road. And by the way, our good friend Professor Shine, I have to mention this, is doing his annual tout contest. He does it every year, raises money. You know him. He's a very good handicapper on X. Give him a follow at Professor Shine. He does his contest. It's a charity charity tout 3.0. It starts this month. So he'll give you all his famous bowl winning sides, totals, anything that you see, plus EV, CBB, college basketball, NBA, NFL, and all proceeds are going to go to select local high schools and youth orgs. He supported these, a lot of them. Last year they crushed it, and I think they netted around 1,500. And again, it was for a great cause. You can email him, professorshine@gmail.com. Shoot him a DM at Professor Shine on X. All right, comments coming in. We'll get to them as well on the other side. Tom, Kevin, Vince, D again, Mike in Ohio one more time, Sarge in Delaware. I'm going to grab you guys coming up on the other side. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. Very busy Thursday edition of On Cue. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, welcome back, everyone. 27 past the 4 o'clock hour, Thursday edition of On Q. Rich Quinones here. We'll take you up to the Odyssey app, as I mentioned. Don't forget, all you have to do is download the Odyssey app. Search for Coastal Sports Digital Network. We're also on the X platform as well, SR 1029 FM The Game, and Coastal Sports Digital Network, Florida, as well as my YouTube channel. All right, let's rip through some of these. Ty stands in the batter's box. Let's have him lead off. Big time Michigan fan. Q, when you really think about it, what are the chances that the university finally cuts ties with Harbaugh? I think you have to. I think you have to. Like, if you look at the final tally for Jim Harbaugh, his era in Michigan, you got 4 straight wins over Ohio State. You got 3 Big Ten titles. You got the national championship. But then you got all these scandals. You got all these scandals. You got the recruiting violations during COVID. You got the illegal scouting scandal, right? You had the assistant coach who was indicted on 24 federal charges of hacking into private information and images from the photos of female athletes. What a scumbag. And now you've got your former offensive coordinator and successor in Moore, who's fired and detained by police after a university investigation into an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Yeah, the you know what hit the fan. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see what you guys are. I'm going to get to all you guys, I promise. New headphones, who this? AKA Heat 12 Man, AKA Heisman, AKA Steeler Nation, AKA Vince, now AKA Duval. What's up, people? Lovely Thursday in the freezing Northeast. Horrible. Stay warm, Q. Hope Kiki has a nice sweater for the walk after the pot. She does. Giant blue sweater. Yeah, absolutely. She's a warrior, though. Like, the cold doesn't bother her. Like, the other day, she wanted to get in a little pissing contest with a field mouse. It almost got a little dicey. Q, did you hear they've had 7 of Michigan's staff who have been arrested since they hired Harbaugh? Shaking my head. How's that possible? It's a great point. It is a fantastic point. It's a fantastic point, man. What's up, y'all? That's crazy. Whole story is not. It is. It's going to get worse. Yeah, if I'm Michigan, you cut ties. Like, seriously, see ya. Vaya con Dios. Thanks for the memories. Here you go. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that Harbaugh is responsible for all this stuff. I'm not. You can't listen. And listen, you can't blame him. He's kind of coach of the Chargers. Right? But the theme, when we talk about accountability, when we talk about behavior, when we talk about um, not allowing the inmates to run the asylum, when you're given a lot of money, position of power, you've got to weed through the tulips. You really do. And if you take a step back, you sit there and say, here you go. Here's a position. You are the institution. You are the university. It's under your watch. Like, these are your guys, right? Guilt by association. So obviously these transgressions by Moore have nothing to do with Harbaugh, but the optics are bad because it's all about what? What do I talk about a lot on the show, right? The culture, changing the culture. And that's undeniable. It's undeniable because it's lack thereof, the culture. I mean, think about it. It's like that tree, right? It's like, well, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. So the fact that it was, he had these guys under his watch, the optics look bad. And I know a lot of Michigan people don't want to hear that, but that's a fact. That is a fact. Seriously. And apparently there were some rumors about stuff going on, several weeks ago. But I still hearken back to this. Anytime, you're working at a job and you turn around and boom, you're making 30, then you're making 60, you're making 60, you're making 120, and you're tight with the boss. And the job title, your description doesn't change. I'm sorry, I'm going to call that into question. And I don't want to hear this, hiring if it's a young, attractive girl. And I've seen people on social actually blaming, the girl. Like, this is a grown man. You got to be held accountable for your actions. Period. You chose to put yourself in a compromising position, right? That's it. You decided to put yourself in a compromising position. You didn't once think how this is going to affect your job. You didn't once think, wait a second, am I about to be unfaithful to my wife? You didn't think the ramifications and the repercussions and the ramifications of doing this with a staffer that you're going to see pretty much 99% of the time during the week. You can't teach stupid. You just can't. And his actions were foolish, stupid, selfish, dumb, and just absolutely unacceptable. 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 It's a disgrace. And you know what's even worse? Here's the worst thing about this, too. So you got the rat ship, okay? This is how bad it gets. And yeah, it's got to be said today because it's not a Woosah Wednesday, but it's a friggin' Thursday. So I'm still fired up. You got the rat ship and you got friggin' Schefter up there who's got no friggin' conscience whatsoever. 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 None. He doesn't. He just does not give a shit. He'll literally report whatever the hell he wants for. Remember the stuff he said when Haskins passed? Remember the stuff with JPP and releasing the medical? I mean, rat of all rats. Are you kidding me? Rat of all rats. Go break this. Go break news. Rat of all rats. Going up there, okay, on live television. Live television. And if you're not aware, he's a Michigan man. He goes on the rat ship and he says that Moore believed lots of people were out to get him and we should, quote, withhold judgment because we haven't heard from him yet. Is this friggin' jackass serious? That's because his ass is in the clink. Like, let's not bring that detail up, Shefty. Let's not bring that detail. Let's just gloss over that. Come on, get off the TV, please. Just get off the TV. It's embarrassing. Absolutely. I mean, that's one small little detail you left out, right? Oh my goodness. One little small detail, but hey, man, we're just gonna gloss over it. We're just gonna gloss over it. Big damn China in the queue. You know I'm a diehard Michigan fan, but you have me rolling right now, and I'm gonna agree with you. AD should be fired. They made the right decision with Moore. They need to bring in a proven head coach that understands it's going to take a while to fix the reputation of the university. That's well said. It's well said. Absolutely. It's all about behavior, man. I mean, it's, listen, we know who the biggest ardent Michigan supporters are. And some of these guys, these talking heads, it's like, come on. Don't have a little decorum, will you? Right? Like, just stop. You can't defend this. You just can't. You can't. Can you imagine the scandals of the bunkers that haven't come to light? Oh, I mean, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. I can't even. I mean, they've got their own issues. Eagle Nation, Bunker Boys, pretty quiet thus far. Man, pretty quiet because they know. Can you imagine if this team goes out 11, 12-point favorite against his Angel says, Slim Pickens, Kenny Pickett, Carl Pickett. If they lose in the Kenny Pickett Bowl, wow. Just the whole Jalen Hurts nonsense is utterly ridiculous, too, with benching him. I'll get to you guys on X. Stanford's arrest since his watch kind of seems like a direct link to Harbaugh. When Miami had arrest after arrest of young men, it was seen as a direct failure in the coaching. Got to keep it even. 7 staffers. I think I did. Did you miss the point where I basically said cut ties, right? I mean, Harbaugh's not a good dude. No one ever said he was. But there's enough evidence to suggest under his watch it was friggin' romper room. But this is not on him. He didn't tell Moore, go and have an affair with this kid, go and have an affair with this girl. And oh, by the way, have a mental breakdown, go to her house and put a knife to your throat and threaten to kill yourself and him. He didn't do that. But obviously, as a whole, over the last several years, 95% of these scandals were under his watch. But again, he left. He's with the Chargers. You think he's actually thinking about this right now? No, he's not. He really isn't. I got news for you. He's not. I'm sure a question might be asked. He's not. He's an NFL head coach trying to get a fighting for a playoff spot. He's worried about the Chiefs. He's worried about the Chiefs. He's not worried about what the hell's going on in Michigan right now. He's got an eye on it, but he's not worried about it. That's just who he is. Coach Prine to Michigan. Got to check with Costco, see how we feel about this. May have to start the campaign right here on your show, buddy. So hold on a second. So then when I said Dion leaves in 2 seasons, you guys killed me and you called me a hater. Now that all of a sudden the seas part, Moses parts the seas, and Michigan has an opening, then we're going to slide Prime in there, right? I mean, is that what we're asking? Is that what you guys are asking me? Nah. Dion to Michigan? You're going to hear a lot of names now tied to Deion Sanders. Of course. Of course you are. You know, turnaround programs, right? I think this is what I'm looking at. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong. And you guys have a habit of pointing out a lot of things that you feel I am wrong. But tell me if I'm right here. If I'm Michigan, and this is a big time job opening, right? Which it is. It's a big time university, big time football program, a lot of money. Here we go. Top 5 in the country. Okay. Your first step is that you can't hire a guy that hire me to get experience. You can't hire someone and say, hey, man, baptismal by fire, stick your toe in the deep end, sink or swim. You can't. You just can't. Now, did he fill in? Did Moore fill in for Harbaugh and win some games in 2023? Yeah, won some big games in 2023. But I got to prep you for a full-time role. And if you're not prepped for that full-time role, I can't trust you. I can't. I can't. And if he wasn't, here's the other thing. If he wasn't retained by the university after Harbaugh left, do we really think he's going to have a shot at getting a major head coaching gig? No, he's not. So Michigan decides we're going to take a shot on this guy. Keep him in-house. Here we go. It's not like he did anything spectacular as a head coach. He had to rely on talent. You had 3 top 5 or top 15 talents in the NFL draft. You had, 5 total in the first 2 rounds of the draft. So sure, you want to credit him? He recruited well. But I'm not going to sit there and say he's a Hall of Fame head coach. They were going to go undefeated every season. Yeah, you beat Ohio State in 2024. Okay, fine. But the expectation, teams like Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, they're always going to be college football playoff contenders year in and year out. And then you start to miss the mark a little bit. You have a couple bad losses. Fine. You need to hire a coach that has experience. He's been around the block. And you got to hire someone that has absolutely no affiliation at all with Jim Harbaugh. You just can't, because unfortunately, it's guilt by association. I know you can be the nicest cat in the room and you can have great head coaching experience, but if somebody said, oh, a friend of a friend of a friend is friends with Jim Harbaugh, not happening, man. It's not fair, but that's the way of the world. They can't go that route. And I get it. You kind of want to hang on to that, right? That tree, if you will. You can't do it. You can't. It's one of the reasons Michigan brought in the interim, right? Pogge, and then Martindale, because they all had the relationships with him. But it's not his team. It's not his program. So you move past that. You cut ties. That's it. Boom. See ya. I don't want to have anything to do. If you had something to do with this guy, no. And then you got to go offense. You have to. Because Harbaugh was a very good offensive mind. So you got to go offense. I mean, those are keys right there if you're trying to fill that void. Look, Brian Daboll, believe it or not, that name's probably going to be floated around. I mentioned Matt Patricia yesterday on the air to Costco. You know, he's going to be sought after. He's a hell of a defensive coordinator. Even though I mentioned you want to go offense a little more to start, right? It is a sought after position. But I'm telling you, man, it's just, unfortunately, you have to be very careful the direction you go. Because the university has taken a lot of hits. And you got to call for what it is. These are self-inflicted wounds. That's all it is. You got to hire character people. You have to. And some universities don't want to do that because they understand we got to win now because of what? TV rights, broadcasting rights, the boosters, the alumni, the guys cutting the checks. BG chimes in, Q, that's absolutely ludicrous to actually think this guy was a patsy or a fall guy. I don't know who the hell said that. Oh, no. I'm not suggesting that, nor did I say that. But that's also a theory that has been floating around, right? That's a theory. And yeah, I'm not having it. By the way, totally off the beaten path. Phillip Rivers actually has a passing prop. I have to throw it out there because they're playing Seattle, and I think Seattle's going to wax them. 152 yards passing on FanDuel. We'll get into a lot more of the NFL in the 5 o'clock hour. Let me get to a couple more of these comments as well. Oh, look at this. Nikki, the Notre Dame fan. Q, you know I can't stand when you're talking about Notre Dame. Ha, ha, ha. Love you, brother. But, oh, my God. Blank, blank, blank to Michigan and blank, blank, blank to Michigan men. Laugh out loud. What a week for them. Yeah. I mean, if you're Notre Dame, okay, back page, right? We're not leaving the independent. We got screwed. College football. We're not going to go in a bowl game. Oh, hold my beer, Michigan. Yeah, of course. Oh, my goodness. Here's a thought. Here's an idea. Like, stop dealing with people that, have the bloodlines to Michigan. Go outside the box, right? Something a little different. I don't know. Nick and Wyford chimes in. Q, have you checked A.J. Brown's stats the last 3 games? Oh, by the way, what's the Eagles' record the last 3 games? Aha, and there it was. Nick and Wallingford. This is what happens when you force feed the diva football. With a force feed the wide receiver the football. A.J. Brown, his last 3 games, 8 for 110, 10 for 132, 6 for 100. Here you go, and they're 0-3. A.J. Brown's done in Philadelphia. He's done. He's absolutely done. Yeah, a little decorum. Why not? Notice the last 3 games, Brown has... Oh, Deech has chimed in. Oh, that great stat. Thank you very much, Naaman. Thank you very much. Yes, and they're 0-3. I didn't even see that comment. Thank you. One more ever coach again in some no. Absolutely not. No. He won't even be able to go in the parking lot in Detroit and coach rats in the parking lot. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nope. No. The worst thing about this is that you got a guy who was set up to really excel. And when I say excel, I'm giving you the keys to the castle, right? I always say, don't try to replace the man or be the man to replace the man. So Harbaugh is gone. Here you go. I'm entrusting you more, right? Recruit, win some games, be out in the community, be a stand-up guy, be honest, be genuine, be transparent. and you'll have an opportunity to coach Michigan. As long as you win, you beat Ohio State, we win some playoff, get national championship, whatever. We're going to have a little patience because we know what Harbaugh was bringing to the table as a coach. So now you have to take it where some people don't like to go. Now you got to take it from the reality of life. And the reality of life is this: you're married, you have a secure job, okay? You've got a family, you've got kids. They are your number one priority, first and foremost. First and foremost, their well being. You don't do anything to embarrass them. You don't do anything to put them in an awkward position. And when you stand up there, now I can't speak to this because I'm not a married man, but from what I gather from those that I know who are married, and I've been to many a wedding in my day, you stand there and you give vows, you share vows. He broke the vow, period. He cheated on his wife, he was unfaithful. So, some of these idiots who are chiming in right now, I'm not going to read half their comments. You are the problem. Like people like you, guys like you think you can go about and do whatever the hell you want, and there's going to be no repercussions. And first of all, hopefully your significant other wakes the hell up, because some of these comments, and I'm not going to pull them up on X, I'm not going to read them. I refuse to. It just shows you the mentality of some of these jackasses in the world. And here's a little advice. Again, you think you're not going to get caught. And he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. So you can throw all this back off, the mental illness, you can throw it all at me, man. A lot of times when people are sorry, it's because they got caught. It's because they got caught. And people never want to talk about that. I don't care. White, black, green, yellow, don't make it a red. White coaches get caught with their hand in a cookie jar. I'd be saying the same thing. I don't care if this guy is black, brown, yellow, blue, green. And then you go to this person's house and you threaten to kill yourself. You threaten to kill her. I mean, unhinged, because you know what you did was wrong. You realize you had everything friggin' lined up in your life, and you decide because you're weak. That's exactly what it is. Weak. Just a weak constitution. No morals, no character, no heart whatsoever, no empathy, sympathy. You're weak. You were thinking with the other head, and now your life is in shambles. You know what? Deal with it. You made your bed, now you lie in it. And the advice my father told me many, 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 many years ago, it's very simple. Women are smart. They are not dumb. Women know when their men, their spouses, their significant others cheat on them. They will always find out. You can't even debate me with that. That they are the species of women. They're too smart. They're too smart, and you deserve to get caught because you're doing something that's wrong. So you can't fake it. You can't sit there and pretend. No, women find out. They find out. They're too smart. And you knew everything was going to come to a head, and then you're doing it with a staffer. And you're doing it with a staffer whose salary went from X to Y. Like, what are we not going to bat an eye? I don't feel bad for this man. I don't. I think Dable should take the job if they offer it to him. I don't care if anyone will hire him as head coach right now. College stint might do him some good. That's a hell of a landing spot. Is it not? That's a hell of a landing spot for a guy like Brian Dable. I mentioned that yesterday with Costco. More passing yards Sunday, Sanders or Rivers? Ooh, some book needs to have that action. Oh my God. I actually think Sanders is going to have another big game. I really do. I do. Say 235, 240. Yeah, and I appreciate that, D. Thank you. You just posted that. That's crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. I can't even get into half these friggin' comments. All right, we'll get into NFL on the other side as we're fast approaching the 5 o'clock hour. Keep it locked in. Thursday edition of On Q. If you haven't done so, T chimes in again. Q, you're taking major shots at the mothership today. Yeah, it's a rat ship. I don't need someone from Michigan who's a talking head or on TV to sit there and tell me that this guy hasn't said his side of the story. Like, stop. Just stop. Frankie chimes in. Q, I know you're going to talk a little NFL in the 5 o'clock hour. Any thoughts on the Jets perhaps moving up? You know they're going to need a quarterback. We're going to get into that. We'll get into the Giants. Jackson Dart, Jaden Daniels is out. Jalen Hurts still under fire. Got a lot more Eagles comments coming in. I would deem it a must win for the Philadelphia Eagles. I really would. A must win. All right, let me get to your comments as well on the other side. Quick timeout, fast approaching 5:60 in the book, 60 to play with. Chino, hang tight. KC chimes in, hang tight. Tyler again, Nick and Wally for Monday. Marcus chiming in. Sarge, we'll get to you. Tom, Joe D, we'll get to you as well. And David and Parsippany, we will get to you as well. Keep it locked in. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on a Thursday edition of On Cue. All right, welcome back, everyone. Fast approaching 5 o'clock. We'll get into your comments as well. Don't forget, we're powered by Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. And, of course, fresh roasted coffee. Don't forget, in the show notes, BYP20, 20% off your first purchase. Chino chimes in. Good to hear from you, brother. During my 23 years in the Air Force, first and foremost, thank you for the service. I've seen so many guys throw away their careers over women. It's mind-blowing. I just don't for the life of me. I don't get it. I just I don't. Sure, listen. Do do we get tempted? Of course. You know, you get tempted to stray. Sure. Do you look? Sure. Do you think about it? Sure. You know, and that's not always a good thing because it could lead you down a bad path. But he did all those things and then he acted on it. And what bothers me the most, and again, man, I'm listening and I've listened to some talk about this today. And you can go to the university, you can sport the university, you can die on that mountain for the university. But you have to be, there's got to be self-awareness, right? There really does. Like you cannot sit here under any circumstances and feel bad for this guy. I'm sorry. Like Sarge says, Q, you're talking about empathy and sympathy. Where's yours? For what? For what? Why? We have to be held accountable. We're grown friggin' ass men. Like, we need to know better. And if we don't know better, shame on us. I'm sorry. There's no pass here. I mean, Adam, he needs to shut up. Like the rat ship, you need to not put him on the TV because what he said, it's like a fireball fence, man. Talking about this guy's his side of it, right? And saying that everyone's, um, after him and he has to get his say in this situation. I don't know. He felt like people had it in for him for an awful long time. He was having an affair with a staffer and then threatened to kill himself and her. Like, what does this is this guy so friggin' tone deaf and delusional? Like, that's embarrassing. Your credibility shot to shit. Like, get off the TV. Stop talking. It's utterly ridiculous. Like, is that how you really think? I mean, you're having an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, by the way, and you're a man in power. And now, we got to have I got you. Someone's out to get him. Oh, because you're doing asinine things. I just, wow. Can you be any more friggin' biased? This is the same jackass, and he is, who posted JPP's medical records, right? And then had, that ridiculously half-ass backwards eulogy, tweet with Dwayne Haskins. He's a friggin' fraud. Absolute friggin' fraud. I mean, you want me to sit up here, some of you Michigan guys and some of you football guys chiming in right now, and you want me to feel bad for this guy. I'm not feeling bad for this guy. This guy cheat. He got caught, period. He had a wife. He had kids. He was a freaking head coach of Michigan. Now you want to make the guy to be the victim or the fall guy. Just stop. Stop. You're embarrassing yourself. My goodness. Jesus. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that you guys are thinking like that. Scandals are a part of sports. We know that. Right? Scandals are a part of sports. And it's how you address them and how you handle them. Michael asks, is this guy ever going to get another coaching job? No. And shame on anyone that would hire him in that regard. And don't give me the second chances. I'm so tired of that excuse. Second chances. After a while, it gets old because you show who you really are. You show who you really are. All right, Kevin chimes in. Q, you're going to address my Jets comment. This is not Kevin C. This is Kevin in Tom's River, by the way, Jet fan. Yes, I will address your Jet comment. Yes, Tom, I will get into your Eagles as well as we go around the NFL, which starts this evening as another weekend is among us. That would be week 15 already. Falcons and the Bucks. The Bears will take on the Browns. That's an interesting game. Chicago's laying 7.5. I'll give you some of the marquee games that I like this weekend. Oh, the Ravens in Cincinnati. I did want to bring them up for a couple of reasons. And I talked a little bit about this with Lloyd on BYP. I don't know if you guys heard Joe Burrow's comments. He's not having fun anymore. And Joe Burrow has been banged up. Cincinnati has not given him a defense over the last several years. Joe Burrow is I'd say a generational quarterback. He's a hell of a quarterback. And you could have made the case he could have been MVP last year. And even though I said Cincinnati should shut him down, I'll tell you right now, there's a reason he's playing. Right? He's a great quarterback. When you hear Joe Burrow start to talk about the game's not fun, I need to make it fun, I'm not having fun, who does he remind you of? Like, what quarterback said that a couple years ago and literally shocked the NFL because his body was betraying him, because the franchise wasn't helping him out, and he was banged up every other friggin' Sunday, and he just couldn't do with it anymore. He couldn't deal with it. Andrew Luck. Now, I don't know if Burrow's trying to force his way out of Cincinnati. Lloyd brought up a really interesting point. Cincinnati hasn't really given him the supporting cast. And you're talking about defensively, right? I mean, this franchise over the last several years has just given up a boatload of points. So what did they do? They turned around in the draft and they drafted Stewart. It hasn't played out. They drafted the kid Knight. They drafted a linebacker in the 4th round. I mean, it's not like they're void of talent. Cincinnati. We know they've got some very good offensive weapons, but you were expecting that their defense would step up. And then you had the issues with Hendrickson, and basically he's now on the IR. And he's given them really nothing in 7 games, couple sacks. So when I hear a generational quarterback like Joe Burrow, and he is, talk about the game's not fun, I start to get a little worried that maybe he is contemplating retirement because the body can't take it anymore. I mean, his season last year was absolutely masterful. It was unbelievable. He threw for almost 5,000 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 9 picks. He single-handedly dragged Cincinnati into playoff contention. He's played 16 games twice in his career, 17 games once. He missed a couple games his rookie year. He missed 6 games or 7 games 2023, and he's been banged up this year. Now, is he going to try to force Cincinnati's hand and get him out of there? I mean, hell, if that's the case, if Cincinnati's actually opening to trading Joe Burrow, if you're the Jets, you don't make a move. I mean, listen, he's not going to Cleveland, right? He's not going to Cleveland. What do we got here? Unlimited M on XQ, really enjoying the show. I don't know if you saw this, though. University of Michigan uncovered all the evidence with the relationship. But remember, he signed a deal in 2024 would pay him roughly $6 million per year through 2029. The buyout is listed at $13.99 million, which is the second lowest among Big Ten coaches. Q, you got to remember, he was fired for cause. Michigan may avoid paying some or all of the buyout. Yes, that's something we did bring up. We definitely brought that up. James chimes in. Q, did you see Riley Leonard's comment? He was asked if he was frustrated because Phillip Rivers returned and he might get the start over him. I have no idea what the hell that. Are you telling me the Colts couldn't find another quarterback in the NFL? Instead, they got to pull Rivers off the sofa? I don't even. Is he really going to play? Is he really going to play on Sunday? I think Seattle absolutely destroys them. Absolutely destroys them. And that game's going to go. Indianapolis might not win another game the rest of the season. But that Bears-Browns game, that's a good one. But that Cincinnati and Baltimore game, that's one to watch. That's one to watch. I mentioned the Bears coming off that tough loss to the Packers. They are laying 7.5. Now, obviously, Sanders, he's the guy going forward. Now, if we pull up one of my favorite sites, Tankathon, if you look at the draft order as it stands right now, the Giants would get the top overall pick. The Raiders would be second. And by the way, those two teams play. And I have a feeling the Giants are going to screw me by beating Washington on Sunday with no Jaden Daniels. Raiders and the Giants have lost 7 straight, respectively. Tennessee would be, they would pick a number 3. Cleveland potentially needs a quarterback in number 4. I believe the Saints need a quarterback at number 5. Washington has their quarterback, but now it gets a little tricky. You've got the Jets at number 7, Arizona at number 8. I think they move Kyler Murray. Atlanta number 9 because of the Rams, and then you have Cincinnati at 10. Now, what if? Now, hear me out. What if the Rams win the Super Bowl this year? What if Stafford calls it a career? If I'm McVay, if I'm the Rams, I am calling Cincinnati, and I'm trying to get Joe Burrow. So this is why this is a very big weekend in the NFL. It really is. I like the Bears in this spot, but I think Cleveland will cover the number. I really do. Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q, do you think this is a game where the Browns will stack the box? You saw that what the Bears were doing against the Eagles in the trenches. Their offensive line was blowing these guys away. I think you have to. I think you have to play the run first and foremost if you're Cleveland. If Williams beats you with his arm, he beats you with his arm. Chargers and the Chiefs. Now, this is it's a fascinating game, right? Because I was trying to get it out of Lloyd that the Chiefs are cooked. They're done. and he wasn't having it. So Lloyd is giving the Chiefs one last shot. And they might win this game because, if we're saying they were pretty much on life support, and I cooked them, I buried them. But the Chargers have a very weak offensive line. You have a banged up quarterback. They've got some injuries. Kansas City's at home. I don't like the number 5.5. This could be that Mahomesian game. My issue with Kansas City has been the offense, a lack of ground game. Pacheco and his revenge tour doesn't even exist. Hunt's getting older. But if you were to give the mulligan and say, okay, Q, give them one more week, that's it. I mean, I believe I officially have gone on the record and said they are done. They cannot lose to the Chargers. But this is what makes it interesting. They can get to 9 wins and they need a substantial amount of help and a couple miracles. They would find themselves in the playoffs. Now, 2 games that I think are the games of the weekend. Buffalo against the Patriots. And I'm going to ask you guys this. The Patriots already beat Buffalo. Now they're at home. And, the odds makers are telling you they still believe Buffalo is the team to beat. It's a sense of New England that's won 10 games in a row. You have an MVP caliber quarterback in Drake May, and yet they're getting 2 in this game. Totals 49.5. I will ask you guys this. If the Patriots beat the Bills and the Denver Broncos, Michael, and the Denver Broncos beat Green Bay, are we coming on the air on Monday saying these are the 2 teams to beat in the AFC? Like what would be the bigger win? Denver at home against Green Bay or New England at home against Buffalo? Because I feel as though a couple of you guys pointed out during the week, hey, Buffalo's back. Don't count Buffalo out. Everything's starting to break for them. And we're going to go on the guys and the premise that Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, blah, Colts with Daniel Jones, blah. I'm not talking about the AFC South just yet, so hang tight. But if the Pats beat the Bills, are we going to sit there and say they're the team to beat in the AFC? If Denver shuts down a red-hot Packers team in offense, are they the team to beat? These are 2 big games for these franchises, and these are 2 big games for 2 young quarterbacks. And I think if Denver beats Green Bay at home, and let's just say they put up 24 points, that to me is more impressive than New England beating Buffalo because New England already beat Buffalo. And I think the sentiment is we're waiting for the other shoe to drop because of Bo Nix, whereas we've seen the elevation and trending up in Drake May. And I already told you this. I've gone on the record. I have Denver winning the Super Bowl. I still need them to get a loss. I really do. I want them to get that loss, get it out of your system. And if it's going to happen, do it this weekend because it's an NFC opponent. But man, if they put up 24-28 against Green Bay and they're shutting down Green Bay and they're shutting down Jacobs and Love's having a great season. Jordan Love's creeping up. He's ascending in the MVP odds. I still think it's going to be between Stafford and May. But now we got to really look at Denver as a whole. And if they lock up that 1 seed, I don't want to go play them and that defense. I would have more confidence Buffalo going into New England than Buffalo going into Denver. I really would because Denver's defense is, I just think it's better than New England's. The Texans, we can argue, might have the most balanced defense, the best defense stat-wise in the NFL, run defense and the yards that they allow passing-wise per game. And they've got a game against the Cardinals. That line's sitting at 9.5. The Texans might sneak up on everyone. And I know Jacksonville obviously still there in the AFC South. But point being is, we talk about these games this weekend. Must win. So we can look at it from 2 schools of thought. 2 schools of thought, because it's always that overreaction Monday, is it not? If we look at this game objectively, both these games, if the Patriots win, we take them serious. Now, if the Bills go on the road and they are favored and they run the football. Allen has that MVP, like game, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. Maybe they stymie May second time around. That win streak's about to get snapped. Does it speak more about the Pats or more about the Bills? And then do we start to put Buffalo in the conversation of, hey, it's breaking for you right now in the AFC? That's why I love this weekend. I really do. I think, look, they're all playoff teams. What if Buffalo wins by 10 plus? I mean, you got to really give them. It's got to be this year for Buffalo, right? It's got to be this year, and I can't. I got if I see New England against Buffalo in the playoffs, man, how do you not take Josh Allen? Or is it kind of because of Sean McDermott? It's got to happen this year for Buffalo. I think we can all agree that Baltimore is not built to make a deep run. They're not. They've had a down year, and Kansas City is just not good. They're 6-7. They're not a good football team. If they were 8-3, 10-4, then you want to sit there and say they'll be fine. 10-4, they're 6-7. They've given me nothing of substance to suggest that they're going to turn around. Now, even if they do run the table, they need a lot of help. A lot of help. Jovan chimes in. I think it's a bigger win for the Pats because it could be signaling the changing of the guard in the AFC East, a division dominated by the Bills, and then prior to that, dominated by New England. That's a good take. That's a very good thought. The bones are going to be made in the playoffs. They really are. The bones are going to be made in the playoffs. I think for the Patriots, they got to figure out a way, shut down Cook. You got to try to turn over Josh Allen. But here's the other elephant in the room. I would say if we're looking right now if Matthew Stafford throws for 350 and 4 touchdowns against the Lions, which we can agree maybe this has the makings of a very high scoring game with the total being 54.5. Stafford's on pace for 48 touchdowns and 7 picks. If May goes out and he's 20 of 28, 335, and throws for 4 touchdown passes and leads New England on a 75-yard drive with under 2 minutes to go late in the fourth, and they win the game, does he catapult Stafford? And the interesting thing is that game's at 1. The Rams and Lions are at 425. Now, if you back me in a corner right now, I think Matthew Stafford is the MVP. This is absolutely the year to win it for anyone. No true tough paths in the playoffs. This is parity at its best. Yep. I think no one wants to see the Bills early in the playoffs. I agree with you. But the Bills need to make a deep run. They have to. Josh Allen's getting older. They've had issues with their run defense. James Cook is getting older. McDermott, he was one of the coaches that we had on the hot seat before the season started. Now, if they go out and they get lit up by Drake May, I mean, listen, a win by Allen essentially, I think, would end. If Buffalo wins and Josh Allen plays well, or even if Buffalo wins and Drake May doesn't play well or he struggles, it is a team game. I think it ends Drake May's chances. And I don't know how. Maybe it's a bias against a young quarterback. I don't know. Maybe it's a little more bias against a veteran in Stafford who's a Hall of Famer and he's playing at such a high level at his age. Maybe May is kind of like that Daniels, talk to me next year. And you can kind of, if you think about it, right? You got to like the Bills because Josh Allen does what? Josh Allen for a couple quarters can be Clark Kent. And then when the Bills need him the most, he goes in to the phone booth and he turns into Superman. And the other thing is Buffalo, we talk about their defense and their run defense. I think they're going to be able to get to Drake May. The Pats offensive line, they are missing some parts. And they beat Buffalo 2 months ago. Buffalo is a different team. They're a different team. So again, you talk about, last run defense success rate, averaging, giving up, I would say about 4.9 issues, but they can get to them. I love the second year ascension. I know Matt is a big Pats fan of Drake May. I love it. It's given the Patriots, you got a quarterback for the next 10 years. You really do. But if Stafford now goes out and wins this high scoring, crazy game, and like I said, just kind of, sit back and relax and enjoy it, he goes, for 365 and 4 touchdowns, and they put up 35 against the Lions, he's winning it. He's winning it. That 2 seed versus 7 seed Bills would not sit well with Denver or New England. So either way, if you're New England and Denver, you listen. You want to avoid Buffalo until you get to the AFC Championship because you're going to be hosting that game. For a team like Denver and New England, home field's imperative. It's imperative. You get a first round bye, you win the divisional matchup, you host a AFC Championship. Is Pittsburgh going into Denver and beating the Broncos? No. Colts are not going to win another game. They're done. Jacksonville, I still don't trust Lawrence. Sorry, Vince. I'll tell you the team that can kind of upset the apple cart in the AFC. Texans. Texans quietly turned around their season. And I think when I would say probably in September, and Man brought it up when we were talking about Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. This team started 0-3. They started 0-3. But you kind of saw their defense was legit because they only gave up 14 points to the Rams. They gave up 20 points to the Bucks. They lost their starting quarterback for a couple weeks. They've been hit with some injuries as well. Ryans has done a phenomenal job. He really has. I mean, Chubb's been banged up, right? All season long. Marks has been banged up. Collins a little bit. Dell's been banged up. Stroud's missing some games. But they just kind of, they quietly weathered the storm and they're going about their business and they turned their season around. And the first 2 wins, I think that they were a 2-4 team. They beat the 49ers and you thought, okay, then they come back and they lost a heartbreaker to the Broncos, but held Denver to 18 points. But then they beat Jacksonville, beat a bad Titans team, beat the Bills, beat the Colts, and then they went on the road and they, in essence, I think they ended the Chiefs dynasty. So if we're talking about a hot team right now heading in, let me just map it out for you. The Texans have the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Chargers, who might already have a playoff spot locked up, and maybe they shut down Justin Herbert, and they have the Colts. I mean, this team should win 12 games. They should win 12 games. So you're looking at the AFC South right now, and again, I'm sorry, Vince, I'm not buying into Jacksonville. I trust the Texans defense more than I trust Trevor Lawrence. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm being honest here. So you got those teams 1 and 2. Indianapolis is done, but the Texans could be the team that comes out of nowhere in the AFC. Texans offensive line quietly has been better this season. Stroud only been sacked 22 times. Mills only 8. That's huge. Yes. And if you look around the NFL, these successful teams that are winning consistently, their quarterback's not been touched. Some of these teams have done a phenomenal. I think the Bears, and I got to give Madman credit. Madman brought this up a couple weeks ago. We're not talking about their offensive line. And if we are talking about their offensive line, you got to talk about Tooney. Their left guard. Their left guard's been phenomenal. He's anchored that line. It's almost like Lane Johnson, right? What are the Eagles? 10-24 without Lane Johnson, whatever the number is. I know, I'm sure Jovan knows right off the top of his head. But if you go back to Caleb Williams, he was sacked 68 times last year. He's been sacked 20 times. That's why he's able to sit in the pocket. That's why they can run the football and things open up. He's got time to throw the football. He's got time to throw the football. There are some games where he wasn't even touched. So the teams that are protecting their quarterback, keeping him upright in December, January, yeah, they've got a shot. Joe D chiming in from Summers Point. Q, I know you're going to talk a little more about the Philadelphia Eagles, but it's absolutely ludicrous. Everyone's suggesting that Hurts gets benched. Is that the contrarian take of the year in your estimation? I just think it's a laughable take. Thank you, Jovan. 14-27. My man, Pots and Pans. 14-27. There you go. Tackles, guards, offensive line is everything in the NFL. It's everything. Jalen Hurts. This is a huge spot for Jalen Hurts. It is. It is a bad Raiders team. Okay? You're at home, and maybe that's not a good thing, because if they go 3 and out to start the game or a couple of bad series, the Boo Birds are coming out. But this is a big spot for the Raiders to just basically turn this Eagles franchise in turmoil with a win. Do I see it happening? No. If you're Philadelphia, it's pretty simple. Your path right here, give the ball to number 26. Like, I don't want to come on the air Monday and Saquon rips off, a couple of big gains and he's got 75 yards going into the locker room on 15 touches, and then he only gets 5 the second half. It's malpractice. That's on Patullo. That's on Sirianni. And, all the talking heads in Philly, and again, I don't listen to what they're saying down the dial. I think it's asinine to suggest Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts struggles the rest of the season and they have a slide and they're one and done in the playoffs and he plays poorly, you want to have the conversation in the offseason? We'll have the conversation in the offseason. But my question, and I have to lay it out like this. If a head coach in the NFL wins a Super Bowl, do we not give him a little charity, a little wiggle room, right? Like a head coach in the NFL can win a Super Bowl, and then maybe there's a down year or two, and the defenders will come out and say, what? Well, hold on a second. The guy won a Super Bowl. Back off. He had a down year. It's the same thing going on with Jalen Hurts. He's having a down year. You get rid of the coordinators, you get rid of your OC, you get rid of the guy that Sirianni trusted. Saquon's having a down year. The offensive line is banged up. You've had to placate a diva wide receiver, A.J. Brown, that's only concerned about getting his reps and his targets and his stats and his touches. And it puts pressure on the quarterback. And the quarterback right now, it's obvious he's got no confidence. He is pressing. So he's got to be driving around, and I'm sure Jalen Hurts doesn't listen to sports talk. I'm sure his friends do, and they're driving around, hearing all the chatter, reading the blogs, going on TV. It would have been better suited for this game to be on the road for the Philadelphia Eagles. But just get Saquon in the mix early and move around Jalen Hurts. Move around, let him scramble, let him do what he does best. Buy some time a little bit. Don't force feed the football to Brown. You can work Goddard against the Raiders down the seam. You can get Smith on these matchups one-on-one. They should be able to score 28 points in this game. If they don't, we have a major problem. Sally, doesn't work like that in Philly media. No, it doesn't. The ecosystem is clownish. There's like 1,000 different Eagles podcasts. What the hell can you talk about on a daily basis that the other 999 aren't? But to your point, it's ludicrous. It's laughable. It's laughable. It's not like 2007 when Eli threw 4 picks and they wanted to, against Minnesota, 2 return for a touchdown. They wanted to run him and Coughlin out of town. That was a team that just made the playoffs and lost in the first round in the wild card game against the Eagles. They started 0-2. Eli didn't have any equity. So you're allowed to boo at that time. Guy hasn't won. He's a loser. Get him the hell out of here. Waste of a draft pick. Bust. Not a franchise quarterback. And then he shut people up and he won. and then he followed up by winning again. Equity in the bank. You're going to live with some bad games. Like, what about the patience? Again, we're killing these head coaches. We want to get rid of these head coaches, fire the head coaches, fire the coordinator. We forget, though, we give them a pass if they win. I mean, I'm not a Sirianni fan, but how many times I've come on the air and said, hold on a second, back up. The guy did win a Super Bowl. I don't like his coaching style. I don't think he has a coaching style. I think he's a cheerleader. Eagles' problems run deeper than Jalen Hurts. They have no identity to speak of. The Texans play defense. Denver plays defense. The Rams light it up with their offense. Detroit lights it up with their offense. They can throw the football. They can run the football. Indianapolis, they can run the football. Eagles have no identity. What is it? Now, are you going to need your defense to start carrying you down the stretch? That's fine. So here's the rub right now, because I can see it. I can see it right now. Jalen Hurts is going to go 18 of 30, $165, a touchdown here and there. They're going to win a couple more games. The defense is going to carry them, because all you want in your quarterback is to win football games. Everything else, stats for you fantasy geeks and losers out there, enjoy it. No disrespect to the fantasy football players, but you know what I'm saying. So Hurts is not going to put up gaudy numbers. They're going to snap the streak. They're going to win a couple games. They're going to win their division, and maybe they get bounced in the playoffs. But then if he goes 20 of 28 for 288 and 3 touchdowns, and the defense blows it late, you guys are still going to piss and moan in the offseason about the quarterback. It's nauseating. Crazy part is Hurts has 19 passing touchdowns, 6 picks. He's already surpassed his total from last year, 18. Could go past his career high, 23, before the year's out. Yeah, but you have jackasses who have a microphone in front of them, not, including myself. We exclude myself. And yet, they want this kid benched for a backup who we have no idea what the hell he can do. Mahomes, Lawrence, Jones, Purdy have all had a 3-interception game this season. Darnold had a 4-interception game. Don't see those fan bases panicking. Here's the difference. Jacksonville's never been there. Everyone was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Let's be fair now with Daniel Jones. The 49ers fans, they were getting on Purdy. The Darnold game, I know what game you're speaking of, because it's when I said he was going to be MVP, and that was the game against Tampa Bay, and the one went doink off the helmet. You know I'm a slinging Sammy Darnold guy. But Mahomes is interesting. But again, it's body of work. Mahomes should get ripped for his performance last weekend. I don't care if the ball bounces off 13 players. You're still tagged with the pick. Mahomes didn't play particularly well in that game. You're also talking about Jacksonville, Kansas City, Indianapolis, San Francisco. Now think about this. Kansas City, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Seattle, and San Francisco. What do they all have in common? Or what are they not? They're not a large media market. They're not. They're not a large... Look, Kansas City Sports Talk, they're probably already talking about the Cardinals. They already know Chiefs are done. In Jacksonville, yeah, they might talk Jags, but they're talking NASCAR. Indianapolis, what are we talking about here? Same thing with San Francisco and Seattle. Now, Seattle, I think, can make a deep run. I love what Darnold's done this year. But to your point, it is the Philadelphia media. A lot of them, they are the culprits. They want to stir the pot. They want to stir shit up just because it's lazy, it's clownish, it's romper room radio. I would expect, Jalen Hurts to be all business. But the reality of this, Jovan and Eagles fans, they can ill afford to lose this game. They just can't. And they can ill afford to win this game and look bad. I mean, they need to quiet the critics. They need to silence people. They need to just have the noise drop off a little bit. Hurts is going to have to play well. I mean, envision a scenario. This team's down 17-3 and Hurts is struggling and he threw 2 picks going into the locker room. Then what do you do? Now, I don't believe Sirianni is going to bench Jalen Hurts. I don't believe Sirianni will ever bench Jalen Hurts as long as he's quarterback of head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. I just don't believe it. I don't. I really, really don't. It's just my opinion, um, and that's just what I feel. I just I don't see it. Coughlin would have never benched Eli. Never, never. They were at the hip. It's painful to do. It's painful to do when you have a quarterback that's gone through the battles and the trenches and the wars with you, and you won games with them in Super Bowls. I mean, that's hard, but you got to be in the business of I don't really care what feelings, how you feel or your feelings, because I'm here to win football games. But we're talking about a quarterback less than a year removed from winning a Super Bowl and being MVP, and could have won 2 Super Bowls. Jay chimes in, Q, do you really think that Michigan covered it up? I'm reading that Michigan covered up for about a month or so, if not for a year. Michigan finally has their excuse to move on from him. Well, again, apples and oranges. If they knew of his transgressions and the AD didn't step in, then that's just as bad as what this man did because you allowed it to continue. And the names are going to pop out. Dayball, Patricia, Gruden. I'm telling you right now, the recycle, but in no way, shape, or form, is, or should any type of venom be directed at the girl. Yeah, she probably knew he was married, bad choice by her as well, but she also had to know it wasn't going to end well. And he had to know it wasn't going to end well. I told you guys this 40 minutes ago. You're never going to be able to hide it. Women are too smart. And you're foolish if you cheat because you're going to get caught. So again, parking your car in someone else's driveway, handing a cookie jar, it's all going to come to a head. But the hiring process, you got to vet these guys better. You have to. You got to vet these guys better. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. And again, I don't care if this guy is white, black, yellow, green, blue. I don't care if this girl is white, black, yellow. Stop. Some of you guys that want to bring race in the equation because he's black and she's white, I don't care. He was married with children and was head coach of Michigan. He was in a position of authority. And he took advantage of that position. There's no winners here. There's only losers. The whole situation, it's sad. It is. But it could have been avoided if he just had some discipline. Period. That's all it is. Every guy that's listening right now, your father has said what I'm thinking, where you keep it, and leave it alone at that. Right? 100% can't lose to Kenny Slim Pickett because if that happens, oh my God, can you imagine? How about this? How about this dicey scenario? I'm trying to think. Do you remember the game years ago? This is many, many years ago. I think it was Jake Plummer to my guy, Marte Jenkins. Remember him? Marte Jenkins? A flashy wide receiver with the Cardinals. Remember Plummer hit him in the back of the end zone late against that was a bad loss. That was like one of the worst, and I'm not an Eagles fan, and I loved it. But that was one of the worst losses I think I ever watched with my Eagles friends because I was like, oh my God, how the hell did you just lose to this friggin' team? Like it was a you got to be kidding me loss. It would rank right up there with them losing to a 2-win team. Unacceptable. It would just be unacceptable. And the other thing is, if they lose and they no-show and roll over like a bunch of dogs, what does that say about Sirianni? Like, here you go, Nick. You want to be the leader of men, you want to be the rah-rah, you want to be the cheerleader. Here's your opportunity. Here's your opportunity. You want to quiet the noise? Have these guys friggin' ready to play. Have these guys ready to play. No nonsense. Go out there and basically put the Raiders away early. Put them away early. Boom. Mark and Wildfire chimes in. Q. I was at that friggin' game October 7th, 2001. You know what? I just literally pulled it up. Marte Jenkins from Jake Plummer, 35 yards with 9 seconds to go. And the Eagles were a 14.5-point favorite in that game. Oh, I got to get to this box score. Let me throw out some names for you. Jake the Snake, 18 of 32, 238, 2 touchdowns. Pittman was the leading rusher with 83 yards. Marte had a $1.19 receiving. How about this for Scrubby McNabb? 19 of 29, 280, a couple of worm burners, a pick. Carell Buckhalter, he was the lead horse that day. 21 rips for a $1.34. Wow. Man, if they lose to the 2-11 Raiders, you don't deserve to win the division. You don't deserve to make the playoffs. You don't. You don't deserve to make the playoffs. That's embarrassing. You cannot. They're a bad football team. But this is where you see what coaching is. And this is also, if they go out and Jalen Hurts plays well, then Jovan, and for some of you guys chiming in, you know what everyone's going to sit there and say? Well, it's the Raiders. Like Jalen Hurts right now is in a no-win situation. The only way Jalen Hurts shuts up these clowns in Philadelphia and some of these media clowns in Philadelphia and these beat reporters that are just trying to stir shit up, he's got to go on another run, get to the Super Bowl, and win it again. Other than that, everything in the offseason is going to be about, is Jalen Hurts the answer? Can you move forward with Jalen Hurts? That's how foolish, and how did we get here? How did we get here? Ugh, brutal. I've got to worry about my own things. The Giants are at home laying 2.5 against Washington with no Jaden Daniels. What are the Giants probably going to do? They're going to screw me and get a win. I can't have that nonsense going on a Sunday. Jets in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's laying 13.5. Cardinals and the Texans. Texans laying 9.5. I mentioned that Denver game. Green Bay, and Love's been playing really good football. Hasn't turned the ball over. Just 4 picks this year. Green Bay's going on the road. A road favorite laying 2.5, 3. I love Denver in this spot. I think it might be a low-scoring game, which favors Denver. Talk a lot more about it tomorrow. Lions and the Rams. Lions are in trouble, man, because they're looking at Chicago. They're looking at Green Bay. The Rams are laying 6. Total is 54.5. So you got Stafford, Goff. Here we go, right? The revenge games, if you will. Could be a fun game to watch. Panthers, they cannot trip up against a bad Saints team, but I'll say this about New Orleans. Over the last several weeks, they play hard. I still think they got to draft a quarterback. Titans into 49ers. 49ers laying 12.5. If the 49ers actually were a healthy friggin' football team, I would probably insert them right there when we're talking about the NFC. Now, their schedule, they've got the Titans and the Colts coming up. Winnable games, which gets them to 11 wins. Man, I'm talking to you. I told you they were going to win 10-plus games. Then they've got Chicago, which might have playoff seedings on the line. And then they close against Seattle. So right now you got San Fran looking up at Seattle, looking up at the Rams, hoping they stub their toe a little bit. That's a hell of a race in the NFC West. NFC West is a phenomenal division. Really, really good football teams. Really good division. Colts and the Seahawks. I don't even want to think about Phillip Rivers out there. It makes no sense. I know Indianapolis has an affinity for Rivers, and he's got an affinity for them. The one season he played, I think Seattle absolutely smokes them. Like, to me, this has the makings of 34-6. It really does. And Darnold's putting up some, gaudy numbers of late. He's on pace for right around 28 touchdown passes. He's got 22 or 23, I think. But I do like Seattle in this spot. Jake the Snake. That's right. Not Jake from State Farm, but Jake the Snake. Yep, that was a brutal 14 and a half point favorites, and you lose. Is that as bad as the Joe Webb game? Like if we're Marte Jenkins, that was a bad loss because they were, big time favorites in that game. What was the line? What was that? Joe Webb game was what? 2009, 2010? What was the line in that game? Philadelphia Eagles, Joe Webb. Let me see. That was, I remember they moved that game. That game was supposed to be either Sunday night or Monday night. We got hammered with snow, right? And that was a Tuesday night game. So they lost that game 24-14 against the 6-9 Minnesota Vikings. The Philadelphia Eagles were favored 14. Wow. Let me give you the numbers on Joe Webb. 17 of 26. That's it. 195 yards. AP went for 22, 118. Percy Harvin, wasted talent, 7 for 100. Vic, 25 of 43, 263. Added 63 yards rushing. And McCoy, who's also another jackass in the media, they're going to fire the offensive coordinator. If not, they're going to take your jersey down. 13 for 44. And Selleck had 10 receptions for 97 yards. Let me just pull one more thing up on that game. I like to go to kind of the flow chart of the game, how it's broken down. 14 and a half point favorites. They were up 17-7. Vic brought them back. Minnesota was up 17-7. Vic brought them back, making it 17-14. Peterson scored on a 1-yard rush, went under 6 to go, pushes the margin to 10. The total was 44.5, and the Eagles were laying 14.5. That's a brutal friggin' loss. I mean, it's going to be fun coming on the air Monday. Kevin chimes in, Q, if the Giants sit at 1, what do you think they'll do with the number 1 overall draft pick? I think you trade that pick if I'm the Giants. Because you don't need a quarterback in this draft. You'll have a couple quarterbacks coming out, and you've got some teams that are quarterback needy. So I would trade that pick. And I'm getting a little giddy now because I saw a couple of reports floating around about the head coaching candidates for the Giants. And there's 2 names that I get a little giddy about. One is Jesse Minter, which I told Costco, I'm good. I'll ride with. And the coordinator with the Packers, who is just a hot commodity right now. A very, very hot commodity. And he's doing a hell of a job. Jeff Hafley. Marcus chimes in. Monday Marcus on a Thursday. Q, would you actually consider Freeman for the job? Notre Dame's they're not going to let Marcus Freeman out of the building. They're just not. They're not going to do it. Mike chimes in Ohio. Q, you said that Cleveland sits at number 4. Mock draft says they're drafting who? I haven't looked at too many mock drafts. I would project it out to be a quarterback for Cleveland. Sanders can win all these games, and I still think they're going to draft a quarterback. I really do. And again, the other elephant in the room is Deshaun Watson. Like, what are you doing with Deshaun Watson? That's a lot of money. I know it's starting to subside a little bit, but man, the Giants, if the Giants and Jets are 1 and 2, which would be hilarious, the Giants, you're going to trade that pick. The Jets want to move up to number 1. The Raiders are going to need a quarterback too, right? Man, what if Cleveland's sitting there at 2 or 3? Do they draft a quarterback? Because I'm seeing the kid Mendoza. Now I'm seeing the kid from Oregon, Dante Moore. His name's being floated around. Does Cleveland go with an offensive player? Do they go quarterback? Tennessee's got to go defense. The Giants, you get some assets. You're good. The Raiders got to go quarterback. The Jets, if the Giants trade that pick with the Jets and the Jets have the number 1 pick, then they're going to draft the kid Mendoza from Indiana. They want a quarterback that can come in, play right away, that's accurate, strong arm, and this kid checks off the boxes. And look, he played in the Big Ten. So the bright lights, they're not too big for him. And the Jets right now, if you look at their QBR, they're 27th in the NFL. They're horrible. And you're also doing what? If you draft a quarterback, you're giving a potential long-term answer for Aaron Glenn. So now he's got a little wiggle room. That's the other thing I was thinking about. Aaron Glenn will last. They're not going to fire Aaron Glenn. They're going to draft a quarterback. They're going to give Aaron Glenn at least 2 more seasons. That's the way I'm starting to see it trending, and that's kind of the buzz I'm hearing. They're going to give him 2 more seasons. This year's a wash. It just did not pan out. I thought Fields was going to play a lot better. That hasn't been the case. It just hasn't worked out for Justin Fields. He might be out of the NFL, or he's going to be a backup going forward the rest of his career. We know Taylor's not the answer. He's a bridge. So they got to go quarterback, build around the quarterback. You've got some weapons to play with if you're the Jets on the offensive side of the football. And remember, too, you also have, you got to wait to see what the Colts do. Because when you traded Sauce, you got draft picks as well. But the Jets have some offensive weapons. They do. You know, Breece Hall is a good running back. Wilson is a good wide receiver. You know, Johnson, he had his moments. You know, the kid Mitchell can't play. The tight end's not that bad, Taylor. They've got some pieces to build around. They're going to have to go quarterback. Yes, Hafley, thank you. I like him. Giants got to go. If I'm the Giants, you know, defense is priority. Give me a defensive coordinator. Please, please, please. Hafley would do wonders with that defense, especially with the Giants having a D-line and linebackers. Get them another quarterback. They got to go secondary. I don't know if the verdict's still out on this kid Carter, by the way. You know, Thibodeau's been banged up, and he's trending towards a bust, even though he played well this season. Carter's really trending towards a bust. Lawrence had a down year. Okereke, you know, they brought him in to be that linebacker in coverage. He's been exposed. And remember, he had a big game against the Giants when he was with the Colts. That's the reason they signed him a couple years ago. You know, Flott's a good corner. Banks can't play. They have to address their defense because you're going to get Scatterboo back. You're going to pay Wan'Dale Robinson, by the way. You're getting Neighbors back. You know, can you get another wide receiver in the offseason? Late round draft, you can. Theo Johnson looks like a keeper, tight end, but they go that base 3-4. You need pass rushers. Thibodeau's been hurt. And even if you think about it too, they're secondary. You know, Belton is a nice player, but he's too inconsistent. You know, you're talking about your strong safety. He's a hitter. Holland, Adebo, they gave him a lot of money. That was kind of their prize signing in the offseason from New Orleans, and he's been kind of hit or miss. Flott's a player. Cordell Flott is a player, and they're talking about the nickel back, and I'm not enamored with it. And they got to address special teams too. Their special teams is horrible. You know, from punter to kicker, return, everything. You know, Oshevsky's not a bad returner. Gillen's too inconsistent with the punts, and then the kicking game has been a friggin' disaster. Got to go defense. You got to bring in a defensive-minded head coach first and foremost. And I don't want to retread, but I'll take one of those coordinators. I'll take one of those coordinators. All right, let me get to a couple more. Keith chimes in from Wilmington. Q, I know you talked a little bit about Baltimore. Who do you like in that matchup? I mentioned them a little bit on BYP. I mean, Lloyd and I go through all these games. The only reason I brought the Bengals and Baltimore up was because of the comments that came out of Joe Burrow's mouth. But this is also Baltimore's last stand, too, right? I mean, you had the bad loss against Pittsburgh. Look how the schedule kind of shakes out right now for Baltimore. After this game against Pittsburgh, after this game against Cincinnati, they have the Patriots, the Packers, the Steelers. So right now, they are 6-7, Pittsburgh 7-6. Steelers already beat them once. So if you're Baltimore, you got to run the table, including that game to close the season against Pittsburgh Steelers. That'll get you to 10 wins. But they're not the same team that they were last year. Lamar Jackson has had a very down year. I don't know what happened with Lamar Jackson. I just, he went from, I could have argued MVP last year. Lamar Jackson threw 41 touchdowns last year. He had 4 picks. He's got 16 touchdowns this year and 5 picks. 16 touchdowns and 5 picks. They haven't been able to run the ball, just like the Eagles. How about those parallels, right? Derrick Henry and Saquon had phenomenal career years. Career years. I mean, just unbelievable. Derrick Henry was what? 79, 80 yards shy of 2,000? He was phenomenal. Phenomenal. 5.9 yards a carry, 16, 17 touchdowns. Now, he's got 1,000 yards this season, but he's only carried the ball 222, a drop off from 326, and there's a reason why. He hasn't really had that explosive, oh my goodness. He's had a couple of nice games. His best game of the season was to open up the season against Buffalo. And you know what we're going to remember? It wasn't the 16 of 168. It was a couple bad fumbles. He's rushed for over 100 yards 4 times this season. That's it. And you want to draw the comp in a parallel, look at Saquon Barkley. Like, if you can't get the ground game going, it's very hard to open up the offense. So Baltimore's struggle because of the offensive line. They've had some injuries. Lamar Jackson has been banged up. Their defense is just horrible. And this is where they're at. And they dug themselves in a very early hole. But I don't trust Pittsburgh. I really don't. I don't trust Pittsburgh at all. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what they're going to do with Rodgers when the season ends. And God knows what's going to happen with Mike Tomlin. We can speculate all we want. Nobody knows. If it goes south and they start to no-show and Rodgers starts to bark a little bit and they think they can squeeze another year or 2 out of Rodgers, Tomlin's gone. Rodgers can almost make sure of that. That's the type of quarterback he is. Look what happened in New York. You would think the franchise kind of understands the body of work that Tomlin has had, but they haven't won in a long time. It's all about the shelf life, right? All right, busy show tomorrow. John Bueller in the 5 o'clock hour. Lloyd Vance. I mentioned we dropped a new edition of Back Your Play. All the Week 15 games are up there, including that unbelievable must-watch game tonight between the Falcons and the Bucks. We'll cap everything off with Monday Night Football, Dolphins and the Steelers, and we'll get into the Vikings and the Cowboys tomorrow. A lot of Eagles time. We'll mix in a little Washington and what direction they're going to go as well in the offseason. I want to blend in a little hot stove, a lot more college football, the fallout in Michigan. I still believe more details are going to come to light. But, man, I'll tell you, it's just not good. It is not good for all involved, and it's sad. And as I alluded to, look, man, grown man, you got to freaking hold yourself accountable. and you got to know better. All right, excellent stuff. You guys hanging with me for 2 hours. You guys are the best. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe on my YouTube channel, please. You guys have been supporting it, and I can't thank you enough. Download Back Your Play on Amazon, Spotify, also on Apple Pods. And please, if you have the Odyssey app, if you don't download the Odyssey app, search Coastal Sports Digital Network, and you'll be able to hear me Monday to Friday, 4 to 6. We've got some network news. I'm going to see if we can squeeze in Angel tomorrow for a couple moments, working on some things for 2026. Give me a follow on social media at Rich Q on IG, and of course on X and TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. All right, you guys have a wonderful Sports Thursday. Do me a favor too. Will you stay warm? Utterly nasty, right? Utterly nasty. John Boy chimes in. Q, no NBA talk today? Ha ha ha. What do you got? 4 on the slate tonight? I'll start giving you my picks and plays going forward too. I told you, you get into the NBA right around Christmas time. That's when we start to get into the NBA. All I know is OKC is just making a joke of the league. I mean, they might only lose 2 or 3 games. So we'll talk a little more NBA tomorrow in the 5 o'clock hour. All right, you guys have a wonderful Sports Thursday. Always appreciate you guys keeping it locked in on a Thursday edition. A man says, "Bring me summertime ahora." Yes. I'm walking Kiki. Her little ears are flopping. We're trying to find a spot, and the wind was picking up. We had the field mice running all over the place, so the dog's going crazy. But every time she decides she's about to squat, and I'm like, do the business for daddy. Let's go. Daddy's frio. Daddy's cold. Let's go. I say frio. Let's go. The ears flopped up, and then she just decided to just walk. Dogs, the cold doesn't bother dogs. But me, I'm warm-blooded. It bothers my skin. I don't like it. I got warm skin, man. Got those Mediterranean bones. Can't do it. Great show, Michael. Thank you. Oh, look at this. Man's telling me, all right, I'm not on the clock. I feel like the Oscars. Go ahead. One throwback name before you. Chuck Cecil. Sports Illustrated. The dirtiest man alive. Chuck Cecil. That is a great pull. Now, do you want to take it a step further before we hit the 6 o'clock hour? If we must. Cover of Sports Illustrated. Too vicious for the NFL. Chuck Cecil. Wow. That is an excellent pull. By the way, Chuck Cecil from Arizona. All right, 6 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. We'll wrap it up. You guys are the best. What the Frig Football Friday edition of On Cue. Manana. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, Three Brooks Bourbon, and of course, Play It Again Sports. Get your savings right now, BYP20 in the show notes for coffee. And why not? It's cold out there. Warm yourself up. Everyone have a wonderful Sports Thursday. 2 hours to play with on a Friday. Show will be on demand as well on the YouTube channel if you missed any of it today. As always, be safe, be sound. This is On Cue. I'm Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, buen día.